about your company and what you're getting out of SOS? Just go ahead.
Absolutely. Cheers, Chris. So thanks very much for having me, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here and excited for my first taste of Oklahoma later this week. My name's Tom Ferrand. I spent the past 5 years at the intersection of AI and the life sciences, and I'm now the co-founder of Delfa, where we use AI to supercharge patient enrollment for clinical trials.
Okay. I'm sorry, the name of the company again?
Delfa. DELFA.
Okay. Patient recruitment. So what are you primarily focused on in terms of patient recruitment? Is it advertising, helping people mine their databases? What exactly is it that you do?
Yeah, so I think the key shift that we've seen is that AI means that software can go from helping you manage processes, so like a spreadsheet that can help you keep track of patient statuses across your recruitment funnel, to actually helping you run those processes. And so we can start to automate some of the tasks that are typically done using manual labor. So really where Delfa fits in is we enable you to drive your recruitment funnel using AI. So we take your existing leads, whether that's in your patient database or from referrals, we can then reach out to them, engage them over text, voice, or chat, and then pre-screen, schedule, remind them about their visits. So we can really help you scale your operational workload. And we're already working with, sites in the US, sites like yourselves, to help work through those challenges.
Well, that sounds very cool. So I assume in order to do this, sites have to allow their calendar to you, right? In order for you to schedule it and know where a patient might fit in for a screening or a visit or whatnot. So do you handle the whole schedule in terms of visits throughout the entire trial, or is it just up to screening?
Yeah, it's a great question. So you're absolutely right. We integrate directly with like site CTMSs like Creo, Conductor, etc., as well as like site CRM. So we've increasingly seen sites actually adopt things like Salesforce and HubSpot to manage marketing. And so we plug right into those. And at the moment, we're focused on just before randomization. But I think, Chris, you've highlighted where we're thinking about moving to, engaging participants over the entire life cycle.
Yeah, that would be a benefit to a lot of sites. I know it's I don't know how substantial it is, but it's definitely time consuming for a site to keep up with patients and remind them of their study visits and things of that nature. So yeah, it'd be great. Go ahead, Monica.
Yeah, hi Tom.
Hey, Monica.
So where does AI work and where does it fail?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think what we've seen is that broadly, I think when you're using AI systems, the rule of thumb that you want to have in your head is, do I know the answer? So if you're asking an AI system a question or using it to answer, using it for work, and you don't know the answer to the question yourself, you're going to have to be very careful that you check the sources and the working of the system. Now, if you do know that answer and you already know what you want to get to and the outcome that you want to get to, it can help you streamline and massively fast forward that work. And so it can save you a huge amount of time. So that's why we think it's really perfect for the recruitment funnel world, because what you can do is the pre-screening questions, which answers you should expect and how that determines eligibility. And so it can actually help you run that and fast forward it. And so where we've seen it be successful is when you can apply that rule of thumb and the answer is yes, you do know that, and you can validate that much faster with AI. I think the other thing is that people get trapped in thinking that AI acts like a human and it has the same capabilities. I think there's a lot of overlap, but there are some weird, confusing sort of edge cases. So, for example, pre-screening calls are something that a lot of our customers use us for. And taking a full medical history, AI fantastic at. It knows every medication. It can disambiguate between brand names, generics. You don't have to have your pre-screener or your recruiter frantically Googling away in the background to figure out what these are. But you then do contact information and collecting someone's email over the phone. it's really quite hard for the AI. There's no context for it to learn. You have to really spell it out, and it can be quite frustrating. So we've put a lot of work into helping streamline those bits, but then using AI for the full potential around the medical history and that type of thing.
So you have to wait for AGI to get that last part there, right?
Yeah, collection of emails, AGI, right now, everything else.
Fair enough.
Well, and
So-
we're seeing more, I mean, obviously AI solutions or AI supported solutions across sites, and to, stuff that sites can integrate potentially. I mean, here's my concern in a way, like, is it going to initially be just more of a burden for sites to sort of manage all of these new AI assisted things, or is it going to be a help off the bat, or maybe, somewhere in between, or maybe it takes time? Like, again, great ideas, we see a lot of solutions, but ultimately, or even initially, is it going to be a burden for sites, do you think, or an immediate help?
Yeah, so I think that standing up a new technology, starting a new process, there's always going to be an investment up front. I think, I think it would be totally misleading and not true in the slightest sense that, you can just plug this in and it works straight away. Like, AI is very, very new. Site technologies are varied and very diverse in how they act, and every site has its own, even the greeting and how much information they want to tell the patient about the trial they're going on is totally different. And so, yeah, you're totally right. Like, there is an initial upfront effort that's going to have to be kind of invested. I think that long term, AI actually, and even in the medium term, AI is really, really good at reducing tech burden. So for our customers today, we integrate very, very closely with their existing workflows, and we like to say that we work like a human does. So one of our early customers uses both HubSpot and Creo, and they don't have a UI or a tech portal that they log into to manage their AI recruitment workflows. All of the work is spat out back into Creo, back into HubSpot, and then they get weekly reports emailed to them about the work that the agent has done. So it's really seamless in that sense, and I think that's something that we really aim to do.
I guess even to expand on that, do you think, what's the impact of AI going to be on sites and even the industry at large in terms of, do you think it's going to reduce the need for as much staff? Is it going to make things, just shift that staff into doing things that are maybe not so menial, so to speak? Or I guess, how do you see it impacting the industry more broadly?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can expand out. I think starting from like recruitment and enrollment specifically, like when recruiters are doing a pre-screening call, it's like driving a rally car. You know how when you watch those rally races, there's someone going at like 150 miles an hour. There's then a person sat next to them who's like long left or long right, whatever. And for a recruiter, that they're one and the same person, right? They're trying to drive and go through this set of questions with the participant. Maybe it's 30, 40 different questions. At the same time, they're frantically trying to take notes and figure out, okay, they've just told me, Lipitor, what do they actually take that to? They take Prozac as well. Is that a con med? And so there's like this really tough kind of balancing act that these recruiters are going to do that I think is overlooked if you were to listen to the call recordings and haven't done this work kind of on the ground. And I think what AI helps to shift there is it can do the driving while the recruiter actually does the navigating. And so you can actually have the AI do all of the grunt work and to use your phrase, the menial tasks, whereas the recruiters are actually reviewing that outcomes, making sure that the correct decisions are being made, and adding that human element, following up with the patient, answering any questions that didn't get answered. So I think that's like the core of where we see it today. I think longer term, the honest answer is I think AI should be seen. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't believe this, but you can challenge me on it for sure. But I think like sites ultimately are overburdened. They have a huge amount of work that they need to get done. There is very, very high attrition in a lot of like the recruiting roles particularly. And so I think, yes, I believe AI will have an impact on the amount of work that can be done and the amount and the throughput of that work. But there's a natural attrition anyway. So I don't think sites are going to feel the need to cut headcount. I think it will just enable them to act and work much more efficiently. But I guess maybe to turn the question back to you, Brad, like how do you think the long-term impact of AI will kind of play out from a site perspective? What are your concerns?
Yeah, in a perfect world, if there's something making calls and text in the background and getting more patients pre-screened, I guess, and contacted, and then I can see it just shifting to where I need more people to see patients, and maybe not so many people on the front end, or coordinators who are making calls are spending way less time on the phone and more time collecting data in front of a patient or having a patient in front of them. So yeah, I think it's one of the things where maybe there'll be a net reduction in some ways, but it'll maybe it'll balance out. Again, if it gets that front end funnel moved through more quickly, it's just going to be better on the back end. And again, create a whole different, well, then you can get into all the data stuff after that later. But I think what we want at the site level, I want people in my door, not, as quickly as possible, ideally, versus spending, to your point, man, you can spend sometimes an hour and a half on the phone with people and they still aren't going to qualify.
Yeah.
But that's time, that somebody's having to spend doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that scale and the speed at which you can get in front of a participant. So if they express interest through an ad or are referred, you could be within 15 minutes speaking to them. And I think operationally, from a human perspective, that's incredibly difficult to do. I think the other objective or objection we hear quite frequently from sites is like the lack of human touch. And I think that's totally reasonable. I think there's kind of two ways of thinking about it. If you're a patient, what's the experience like today? If you're going over the course of 2 weeks, having 2 different phone calls, maybe repeating a whole bunch of information, it's not centralized, like it probably causes a worse experience. And then secondly, I think there are ways that we can actually do this such that there is human in the loop. And so one thing that we've been working with our customers on is cloning some of their recruiters' voices so that the AI can dial out. If it hits a voicemail, it will leave a voicemail within that recruiter's voice. If they pick up, then it will transfer directly to that recruiter. So you still have that human in the loop touch, but your recruitment team, your pre-screeners aren't spending, 4 hours a day dialing into voicemailers or dialing into no answers. And so you can really streamline that and concentrate that down.
Wow, I love that. I cannot imagine that AI with my accent.
And mine as well.
That sounds amazing and obviously helpful. It's like a super efficient assistant, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you can get the AI do whatever assistance you need, but especially when it comes to the pre-screening. And I think if the AI is obviously has all the information about the protocol, it can be very, very efficient as pre-screening patients and giving you a very, very well pre-screened patient that is almost ready to bring for the screening.
For sure, yeah. And I think, and we haven't done this, but one of the areas that we've spoken that people seem quite interested in is, so I'd love your thoughts on it, is like for the ICF process. So before you consent a patient, typically you provide them with the ICF, send them home, let them think about it, and then they'll come back in. You can have a co-pilot there that can be used to answer more specific questions that the patient has about the ICF, rather than them relying on their friend and family network to answer those questions. It means that you get a much more accurate, response back to them, and they can kind of have a trusted source without adding loads of inbound call burden back to the site. And so I think there's lots of ways that AI can help this patient journey. It's just about kind of building them and stitching them together.
Well, I'm curious, does, I think it helps the patient, like you said. I think, the other part is like, how much does the sort of boom in AI help sites? And then do you think it levels the playing field in terms of like independent sites versus the larger site networks, or does it do the opposite? I mean, are large site networks more able to sort of have the resources to play around with this stuff, as to where it can be challenging at a small site where you may not have, you know, extra people to sort of start implementing and rebuilding, reworking, you know, workflows and processes? Like, so, sort of, how does that? Do you think it'll widen the gap, or do you think it'll minimize it?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. As you mentioned, like larger site networks have more resources to play around with technology, and so I think like piloting and testing stuff, they're likely going to be, you know, the first organizations to do that. I would actually divide the use cases that AI has into two buckets. The first is like operational ones. So this is the type of stuff that the world that Delfa works in, right? How can we help you actually run an operational process? The second, I think, are analytical. So using existing data to perform feasibility analysis, to generate documents, to actually streamline the existing work, so to make more intelligent decisions, so like budget negotiations. And I think from a leveling the playing field perspective, I think smaller sites and smaller site networks are at an advantage operationally. They can be far more agile. They can implement things quicker. They have less overhead to actually change things. From an analytical an analytical use case perspective, I think the larger site networks are at an advantage. They have more data. They have more resources to actually pull that. So that's really how I'd see it. But it's harder to turn a bigger ship. But once you turn it, it's got more momentum. Is really the distinction that I would see. I don't know. How would you all see it playing out?
Well, at the larger sites, they generally have, I would think, or the larger site networks, more man hours to spare, opposed to a smaller site that's operated by maybe a PI and a coordinator only.
Yeah.
Right?
They do. No, I mean, I hear vendors talk to me who are like, you know, bigger sites also maybe don't always want to, again, they're not as agile or willing to sort of take a chance on something versus maybe getting something that's more further along commercially, or even doing it in-house potentially. I do think a lot of times the vendors approach smaller sites because it's just me and a few coordinators. Like we can do it. I can just do it. I don't need the approval from 6 levels of bureaucracy and a board or whatever the case might be. So yeah,
I was also going to add that I think there's like almost a sunk cost fallacy, whereby like smaller sites haven't invested as much into existing processes and existing technology workflows, whereas those larger site networks, you know, to your point, Brad, they've bought a bunch of stuff, they've set up a bunch of stuff, and they've possibly even got like their own in-house technology teams, and that makes it harder to actually update things. So I think smaller sites do have a real advantage there.
I was gonna say that, and then if a small site sees a lot of benefit, that they can exponentially grow too, right? Mm-hmm. So it is a good situation for the AI and the small sites. It seems, right?
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I was just gonna add. I think it's something that you can use as a value add in terms of what you offer to sponsors as well. I think it's a differentiator that you can guarantee to a sponsor that any lead from their central recruitment campaign will be contacted and screened within 15 minutes. I think that makes you a much more kind of attractive proposition for winning new business and running better, higher quality trials.
So in terms of using the scheduling AI, I assume the site can control it to an extent. It's just not filling the calendar wherever it sees a spot, right? We can put a patient here, and the next thing you know, you have 15 screens that week, but you can only handle 3. I assume you can model it to your site's needs, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we don't want patients visits from 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. Like the full scheduling workflow, how many times you contact a patient, over what channel you contact them. So do you text them? Do you push them towards an online chat? Do you ring them? All of that workflow is totally customized, and then it plugs into the calendar, so we can do Acuity, Creo, etc. To make sure that the schedule's pulled through.
Very nice.
Tom, this is a question from someone in the audience. AI can help protocols design. She put the question mark in a different, but it's a question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that all of the big sponsors are already investing a lot in. I think there was a news article that did the rounds that Novo was already using Claude to do a lot of their protocol design, and it had saved, gone from weeks to an order of hours in which they can actually do that. So I think that's definitely a use case that's already pushing forward. I think the challenge there is battling the historical biases. So if you build protocols based on protocols that have happened in the past, you end up with protocols that have the same challenges as protocols that have occurred in the past. And so I think, how can we include patient experience and an understanding of real world evidence into those as well is probably the key challenge there. But I'm not the best person to speak to that.
Well, I guess we're already kind of getting close to the end here, but I mean, what are you looking for, or what are you hoping or plan to see at SOS?
Yeah, I think SOS, I'm hoping to see the beautiful sights of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I will admit,
don't get too excited about it, but it's flat. It's very flat here.
I will admit I had to Google where it was, but I'm locked in now. I think I'm going to the right place. So yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, we're a new company. We're looking to learn more and understand the community. We're already working with a number of US and UK sites and site networks. So really want to share the results and successes we've had and understand more about the challenges that, small sites, independent sites are facing and how we can support them.
Very nice. So
it's a great place to do it.
Do you have any closing thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, I think we've covered a bunch of different topics today. I think that, what we're doing at Delfa is going to be really impactful for the site community. We can help you reduce drop-off, increase enrollment, and improve your operational efficiencies. So if you want to get in touch, add me on LinkedIn, Tom Ferrand, or see me at Save Our Sites.
Thank you so much, Tom. Looking forward to meeting you in person. And when are you arriving?
I'll be there the whole time. I'll arrive early Thursday, and then leave Sunday.
Well, I hope you have been looking at your emails.
Yes, of course.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And we're looking forward to meeting you in person to learn more about your company. And I'm sure many organizations and many sites are looking to meet you too. Thank
Perfect.
you so much. And
thanks very much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
See you, Tom.
Bye.
We forgot the Omni.
Oh.
We're still live,
Next
technically.
one.
Could you hear the lawnmower or something, Monica?
Huh?
Somebody muted me. Which one of you?
I
muted?
did. Sorry, because we were listening to the back noise.
You got to hit stop stream. It still says live.
Oh.
Getting behind the scenes footage